Okay, everyone, welcome to episode 205, season 5. My name is Brian Bacchus. We have a guest. I'm Outro.
And I'm Jamal Smith. I'm Jamal Smith, and I too am outro. Take care.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, I am Toni, and I have with us a guest today, Michael Anderson. He is an architect. He is part of Noma, but also president of Accelerating Community Partners. And he has a book, and we'll get to all that later, Michael, but super excited to have you on today. Michael and I sat on the Regrow Altadena panel last month in Altadena at the Eagles Lodge, I believe it is. And I learned a lot more about you. We had been on a couple calls prior to that, but really learned a lot more about you and your work and the decades of work that you do. And thought that it was important to bring you on today because some of the programs that I literally didn't know about, and I think a lot of people don't know about, you mentioned on that panel. You primarily have been dealing in Los Angeles or with Los Angeles because that's where you're based out of. But the fact that you're now coming to Altadena or being on panels with us in Altadena is great because you have knowledge that we need as well. And so the fact that you have decades of knowledge, I'm excited about the whole trailers or transforming LA communities. Even though we're not part of LA, the city, we are all part of LA County. And so the fact that you do a lot in Los Angeles, the city is still the county, and you're just bringing your expertise to us. And I think that's extremely important. And you're an architect. So if people want to come to you for architectural advice or need you to, create their home, right? And architecturally make sure that it's sound, or they have plans that they want you to check, or you create their plans, they can work with you in that regard too. So tell us more about Michael Anderson, more about Accelerating Community Partners. Like, we're going to have a robust, amazing discussion today, but tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so Michael Anderson, I'm an architect. I've been in architecture for about 46 years. I've done a variety of projects from custom residence for Hollywood all the way to airports. I worked on the new international terminal at LAX. I was executive architect of renovating the parking structures. And then also I was executive architect of the new Intuit Dome Plaza building. So when you visit the dome, the plaza where the basketball courts, the big screen and steps are, my company was the executive architect of that portion, and AECOM did the actual dome. Also, I've done a lot of studies in my career around transit. I was also the author of Metro's TOD, which means Transit Oriented Development Study, for the Crenshaw LAX line. One of the things that motivated me was I've probably participated in a dozen studies in and around various Black community projects. The Watts Willowbrook project, Charles Drew University was my client. I designed the stations in Compton, the transit station, as well as the community center. But the thing is, after we do all these studies, they never got capitalized into a business plan. And in 2012, after I finished the Crenshaw LAX study, I kind of got frustrated. And then assisted with Metro's, what's called the West Santa Ana Branch Transit Corridor, which is primarily a Latino community. They went through the same thing. And by then I said, how do we figure out how to fund these studies so people aren't wasting their time contributing to a vision and it never happens? Because by not implementing that vision, really what happens is the younger generation loses out on having a quality of life and community that makes them a better adult. And so I started looking at how can we create an investment strategy at a large scale that makes people not only want to invest into community, the Black and brown community, but really want to be in the game because the magnitude of billions of dollars going in. So when you see how Inglewood transformed itself, going into from when Mayor Butts first got elected in 2011, $8 to $10 billion of capital came in within 10 years. And so I looked at how can we make that happen in Black and brown communities around the transit stations. In the effort, we had secured, the Department of Transportation was ready to write a check for $25 billion in investments into South Los Angeles around the transit stations. But unfortunately, the administration changed and Secretary Buttigieg never got a chance to process that application. That's the fire.
And now it's probably on hold.
Huh?
And now it's probably put on hold.
Oh, it's just not going to happen.
Are
And
not
so
going to happen.
a lot of people now understand executive orders. Well, the Biden administration actually had what's called Justice 40, which meant 40% of all federal spending got prioritized for urban communities, underserved communities. And so we targeted a 1.6 trillion in climate funding and infrastructure funding to go into our communities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, we had completed the application, was ready to go through a work session, but then the administration changed so that it wasn't successful.
It's been done away with.
That's one of the things that motivate me is often Black communities and brown communities miss out on the opportunity to capture the funding because most of the time they get the residual funding after other communities have. And so I decided to figure out how to design an investment strategy at scale based on LAX's modernization program where money will want to come in because it's profitable.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like how I got started. Then when the Eden fire happened, I was in a conversation with the county CEO's office, and they asked me that I apply some of those strategies to Altadena after the fire. And so I spent about 6 weeks, and that's when I looked at what the priorities are for the community, and then how to nurture coming at infrastructure funding after that. So I'll stop right there. That's a lot. I founded Accelerated Community Partners. I just told a lie. I founded Accelerating Community Partners because I wanted to become an entity with my partners that focused on making investments into other communities, just like I was focused on in South Los Angeles. And that way we call it Accelerating Community Partners because we want to partner with existing organizations, bring what I know to help them attract the capital necessary to make their communities a better place.
Good. So with that, founding that, and I think it's so important that you said we miss the opportunities, right? Because everything is based on administration. And we know that this administration is hell-bent on taking a wrecking ball to anything that deals with minority communities, especially Black and brown communities. And so we get, like you said, the residual, right? On everything. I think about Flint, Michigan in that and how horribly that has been dealt with. And I don't know if any cleanup has ever been done. They made a big stink out of it, but the cleanup has not been done. And other communities that are Black and brown communities have been, and where toxins will be dumped in those communities, waterways will be, have spillage that is poison. And then when it comes to fighting for the rights to get that cleaned up and potentially have, like Inglewood has transformed amazingly, but have jobs that are there, that are sustainable jobs, that are living wages jobs. So people don't have to be on social services or receive, food stamp benefits or housing vouchers or whatever, because now the infrastructure is there, the jobs are there, and people can live off it, right? Typically, our communities are always left behind and get the residual scraps. And so the fact that you recognized this long ago and you have formed the partnership or whatever, but created the strategy around this is important. And you took it. And I don't know if the last administration kind of dragged their feet on it, that made it not happen. But always, if we know there's a change in administration, one administration comes in, and this one that's in now is hell-bent on wiping away everything that the last administration did, right? Because they felt it was too woke, felt Black people and brown communities, had too much of a come up, whatever, want to take us back to the 1800s or something, right? So the facts are that what you are doing is not just beneficial to the Inglewoods, the Comptons, the inner city LA, right, South Central or whatever, but can be expanded to all communities that are Black and brown. And because you live here, of course, you're doing it here. But I know because of your reach with Noma and you coming out of St. Louis and an affluent community, I know you probably deal with people all over, and it would be a really good model for anyone in any minority community to utilize. Mm-hmm. So now that the fires have happened, obviously Palisades does not necessarily need what you studied and are doing, right? Because Palisades is affluent, right? And there's more money sunk in there, and the people that work there and live there. But for Altadena, especially on the west side, which we've spoken about numerous times, being where when redlining happened, the majority of African Americans, Japanese, Latinos purchased homes. It's been devastated. And so now that people are saying, oh, I don't know that I will have enough to rebuild. I don't know that, excuse me, that with my insurance, or the fact that I was uninsured or whatever else, or I'm retired, my house was paid off, whatever the situation might have been. How is what you do and the work that you do going to come into Altadena and potentially benefit people that are having those questions and those concerns right now? Because there's a lot of concern in those regards right now.
Right. So one of the challenges is, let me start with infrastructure. Black and brown communities typically are the oldest infrastructure in communities. All communities have old infrastructure, but primarily because those communities were built for other generations before we got there. And so you brought up Flint, Michigan. And one of the main reasons is that infrastructure being built over 90 to 100 years ago. You have a lot of corroded pipes, and those things are what create the toxins that get into the water. That was one of the main purposes behind the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, was to fund the utility and transit infrastructure for the next generation. And it didn't get manifested into the communities as fast. And so if you thought, because of our infrastructure being so old, it costs more to invest in underserved communities than it does in affluent communities. Because typically when you see new developments, cities, governments make those development projects upgrade the public infrastructure. And then when you compete for federal funds, you're able to say, we've already made a scale of investment, so that's looked at as matching dollars that allow you to get more. So when you come to the Black community, they're like, do you have any matching money? Is this part of a continuing program? No, because everybody's trying to start from zero. So you can look at it that becomes an opportunity where around the world, and it's funny, a global think tank called McKinsey & Company that helps write economies for governments around the world just released a report earlier this month about how infrastructure investment supports and attracts additional investments. So that's one of the reasons I looked at investing into infrastructure around transit stations or transit corridors, even like Lake Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, as a method of attracting investments. And so you may have heard, I think the supervisor's office and them talking about Altadena needs almost $1.5 billion of infrastructure investment as a result of the fire, but also in order to grow for the next generation. So add that as a modernization plan going forward, it would make it more attractive for investment to come around remodeling Lake, Fair Oaks, and Lincoln Avenue to be a better walkable community because you've lowered the cost of investment. But each development goes hand in hand. When you have a new infrastructure, you want to be climate smart, meaning you use water more efficiently. You can add water recycling facilities. Altadena has an open storm drain system in many parts of the communities, or you can make that a closed system, use that to recycle water, turn it into drinking water, and now you've reduced the need for Altadena to import water. But also that creates jobs throughout that whole process. So to go back to what you were saying about our communities being able to have jobs that are sustainable, if you addressed Altadena's rebuild as a modernization project or a rebuild project over a 7 to 10 year period, and then you figured out how much it would have cost to do that, and to tell you, you could estimate around 10, 12, $15 billion to rebuild Altadena. And if you turn
and that's not overall with the houses and the commercial, or is that all everything infrastructure?
It's kind of inclusive of everything. So you have about $1.5 billion of infrastructure investment, and infrastructure is everything vertical and horizontal. So your parks, your schools, your fire stations, your libraries, that's the vertical stuff. Parking structures would be nice to put in that have retail on the first floor. So like on Lake, Fair Oaks and things, when people open restaurants, they don't have to be required to provide parking. It's a part of the city.
But you know what? Altadena doesn't want that. And we hear, and I talked to you about that at the panel, we hear everybody that comes into Altadena that has this grand vision for us, but that's not what we want. We don't want it looking like a city because we're not, first of all, we're a town. And we don't want it looking like these big cities like New York or like
No,
So
it
many
won't.
people,
It's not that.
like so many people from the East Coast have come here and changed how MTA, it used to be RTD, now it's MTA,
I remember RTD.
right? Have changed how Old Town Pasadena, now everything is built with retail underneath and apartments above. We don't want that in Altadena. We don't want it on Lake. We don't want it on Lincoln.
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest things is everyone that's coming in, and you have a great amount of knowledge. We need you guys to listen to us and say,
You said that on the panel on
what you want. Yeah, remember I said that? That's super important because everybody that we've heard from have these grand visions for Altadena, and Altadenians don't want it. And we'd rather not have rebuilds for a little bit longer if we get what we want as our small, lovely town back. We don't want to turn into a big city. We don't want to have all this stuff that's commercial and then apartments above. So how do we work with people like you and others that have done this in other areas? Now, granted, Inglewood and South Central, those are cities, right? So how do you all with these big visions come into our beautiful small town and say, we will listen to you and tell you what helps you become more sustainable, more, everything that we need. But
So
we're going
to. So you have to balance it out between. So often, and I've done a lot of community workshops all throughout the Southlands. Often when people talk about change, there's a category, and actually I wrote about it in my book called Urban Magic. There's a category called fear of change. And basically it's when often communities may not be able to visualize what it's going to be. And there's a gap between understanding what it has to be. So it doesn't have to be big, but growth is necessary for success. And this is one of the things that have hampered investments into Black and Brown communities. Crenshaw is an example of that. So if you look at Leimert Park Village, right? Leimert Park Village could be a thriving, walkable business, arts, and culture community. But in some ways, fear of change and lack of nurturing the vision for what it can be, it has constantly missed out on getting the daytime economy it needs to be successful. So if we give you, for example, there's a context of how you have to exist. And so you can kind of look, I'll talk about the Grove in an example and a reference about that.
Okay.
So you have coffee shops in a walkable community. Those businesses need daytime sales early in the morning before people go to work. They need lunchtime sales, and then they need after-hour sales. So you're really not designing so much the scale of the community. You're designing what the people activities have to be to support a daytime, lunchtime, and evening time economy.
Okay.
And the goal is the commercial corridor has to be profitable and self-sustaining. Just like you operate your household, it has to be profitable and self-sustaining. So you can graduate your quality of life, you can graduate your kids to college and those things. So often that's where you have to nurture growth to happen in scale to maintain the walkable quality of life. I love Altadena. I've been coming to Altadena for over 15, 20 years, right? My mother's been getting her hair done on Lake Avenue until the fire for about 12 years, right behind the old trolley station. So I understand where, you have greater density in some areas, but, there's a balance in between. So look at West Hollywood, for example. Santa Monica Boulevard, just like any other boulevard at the time, has changed in terms of scale. But that infrastructure of making Santa Monica Boulevard a walkable boulevard from Doheny to La Brea, that attracted the investment, kept the walkability, increased the quality of life. And really that's what you want to nurture, is maintaining a beautiful quality of life so that kids can grow up in a decent community and become better self-sustaining adults. And that's kind of the balance. So it's not a vision of making something bigger. It's like basically, let's say Altadena becomes two-story, let's say certain boulevards become two-story developments, because you're in a catch-22, Tony. In order to build in today's dollars, it's going to cost you 3 times greater. So you have to figure out, how can I make an investment and be able to have rental or income from the property that affords you to make the investments? And that's kind of the balancing act of what you have to have. So I think people in the community have to figure out, what do they want as their vision? And then you have to do a financial performer that shows, how can we pay for it, right? And it's what projects are necessary to make the community walkable, beautiful. I'm actually designing a new house in Altadena off of La Corona. And in this case, we're designing a brand new 2,700 square foot house with 2 ADUs in the backyard. Those 2 ADUs is going to house the owner, the mother's sons, and the son and his wife. So we're actually going to have 3 generations of a Black family living on the property. That's actually going to help the community have a higher income on that lot. Okay. So I'm in agreement with you. It is important to work with the community to capture the vision of what they want. And in that vision, you have to figure out how can we make a financial model that's attractive to work.
And that's fine. And I think most people understand that. But again, that's different from what people are coming into our town saying. And it's, oh, we have this grand vision and we're going to do this. No, you're not.
Right.
You don't get to come in and tell us what you want to do without talking to us. And then people are even saying things, because I've talked to some developers that are like, oh, we'll make this, and they're making huge buildings. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. We have Altadena community standards, and the county recognizes that, and it has to be within our standards. And then they go, oh, what is that? And then I tell them, or I send them the Altadena community standards, and they're like, oh, we don't know if we're going to be able to do what we want to do. No, you're not. So that's the thing, right? People have this grand vision of, oh, this town burned down. We're going to come in here and we're going to do this, but don't even know that Altadena community standards exist, don't even know what the zoning is, and don't realize this is a very close-knit community, and they need to come in and maybe sit town hall or have some meetings and say, we would like to become developers in Altadena. We want to hear what you as a town would like to see, because there's no doubt up and down Lake and where the Rite Aid is or was on Altadena Drive, right? There are some things where the Bunny Museum burned down, all of that. These are all spaces where the gas station was that's gone, and they pulled the tanks up because the guy that owned the land says, I'm not going to put a gas station there again. He doesn't even know if he's going to keep it. But there's a lot of empty land that's zoned for commercial. So if a developer comes in and buys it, don't just come in with this grand vision or this mindset of, oh, I'm going to come and make some money, when there's a whole community that at least probably 80+% are going to rebuild and come back. And what do we want to see? And one of the things that I've just said to a few people, and they're like, oh, that would be great. We don't have our own bowling alley. We got to go into Pasadena, right? Even if it's a 4-lane, we don't have our own event center. We don't have our own speakeasy. We don't have our own upscale restaurant, right? Things like that make more sense to think about putting, and that is not going to be on the bottom and then with apartments above. And so when you talk about change, I don't think that Altadenians are scared of change, because obviously with 90% of our town burned down, we have to change. We know we have to do fire stuff, right? And hardening and all of this. And the building materials have changed. So we know there will be change, and we'll never look exactly like we did. There are some people that have their plans and want to go exactly back, but others, it's going to have a new look, right? But it will still be eclectic. Houses will still be, Spanish tile here, craftsman here, ultra modern here, whatever. So we'll still have that, which is the beauty of Altadena. We'll still have no sidewalks on our residential part or whatever. But when it comes to the commercial development, when it comes to our infrastructure, I know that you and I talked on the panel and even before and after. I love what you said about the water reclamation, because you helped Santa Monica do one. So let's even talk about that, because we know Altadena has the 3 water companies, right? And they're trying to figure out, are they going to be collapsed into one? Because one is basically almost non-existent anymore. We know Lincoln and Rubio are still, functioning or whatever, but Las Flores, we don't even know if they're going to be able to come back. And you might have been in some meetings recently about that. I have not, but I know that there have been more meetings, and I know you've been attending. So even to talk about that, and then you said we could do something where I think Santa Monica is 1.5 million gallon tank or 1.5 billion.
Yeah, it has so Santa Monica, I think they have 3 water recycling facilities. The first one on 4th Street, that recycles 1 million gallons a day. It has a 1.5 million gallon underground storage tank. And so that was completed, I think, in 2023 or 2022. Okay. $96 million. So you could look at Altadena having 2 or 3 of those, right? Where the thing is, as it grows, you reduce the need for importing water. You make it more sustainable. But then also that's an opportunity for young children to see this process being created, like at your schools and things. And then they understand this dynamics, like when they're in high school or maybe and sometimes have employment opportunities as it's being created. But I want to go back to one of the things you said to sort of about the community, what it needs to be. Typically, Toni, you want to go through an exercise of visioning of what the community needs to be. This is when and that's what I said. I've done a lot of these where you vision what the community is. It's kind of a nurturing process of showing the community what works based on what they're asking for, but also what has to fit within the financial models. But it's really, and so the way that we typically do that is we go through a series of exercises over like a 6-month period, sometimes a year. We'll go down each commercial corridor, have group meetings about what they would like. People tend to identify what the assets are, be it a park, be it a library, or be it like a historical buildings. And so you start documenting what that is. And then in the vacant parcels or the damaged parcels, you start talking about what can it be. And the community typically tells you what they would like. And so then what you do is you start showing them examples of as-built things so that the community can kind of understand, and also the developers and understand this is what you want, right? And it's necessary. It's kind of like making a master plan for rebuilding. But once you identified those vertical buildings, the parks, and those things you want to improve or to be built back better, then you have to identify what is the utility infrastructure demand on water, electrical, and all these other things. What is the opportunity to put in solar panels and things, or transform the service station with tanks into an electrical charging station, right? Just based on where things are going. And so then that helps you be able to say, well, this is how much the commercial development is going to cost. This is how much the infrastructure demand is going to be. And so you want to start being able to price out how to make those investments happen. But you're correct. It's not you have established your vision through this exercise, but then also you started nurturing the process to attract the capital you need to come in and make that stuff happen fast as you need to. And there's a part of the process is it's a balancing act. The investments have to happen sequentially and at the right time for you to get to the first level of success to then get to the next level of success. And often I've seen our communities die. This happened in New Orleans as a result of Hurricane Katrina, where I grew up in St. Louis. Communities now, houses are being torn down because things didn't happen fast enough before the market of investment went someplace else. And so one of the things that happened in Inglewood was Hollywood Park was a simple housing retail project for $2 billion. Then all of a sudden the opportunity came up to potentially add a stadium to it. Well, then when that happened, all of a sudden a $2 billion project became a $7 billion project.
Right.
And then all of a sudden people recognized this location down from the airport, then into a dome cabin and all this other stuff. I helped Century Boulevard get $3 million in funding for engineering back in like 2010, 2011, right? And then that escalated to Century Boulevard getting rebuilt. But that first thing that happened, the second thing wouldn't have happened, which would have been rebuild the actual boulevard, right? And so boulevards are critical to how your quality of life is. You know, if you have a beautiful street walkable, people are going to be out late at night, right? And so it's a combination of all these things happen at the right time and at the right point. And those successes build on the other successes. The key thing that's important for me is making the community modernize itself so that the children can grow up in a better community, because the quality of life of a community affects the quality of what a child's opportunities are, right?
But you know what? I don't think that that's a huge issue for Altadena. Altadena is not like Century Boulevard or South Central. Or
right. I'm not making that comparison.
I know, but wait, but when I hear that, that's what it translates to maybe for some people, because Altadena is very unique and we didn't have a bad quality of life. And this is not a rebuild because of blight and the town went to hell in a handbasket. This is a rebuild because we had a disaster that's a fire, right? That wiped us out. So I want us to stay focused on that. Not that you're not, but
Okay.
a lot of times these builders, like I said, come in, oh, this is an opportunity to make some money or do whatever, and might think that way. Oh, we got to rebuild because of this or that. So I think that it's excellent what you're saying, and it has to happen. There have to be these meetings. I know Catherine Barker's office did this AARC or ARRC or whatever, but people are like, but nothing's really happening, right? We got block captains, we have all these people throwing resources, but nothing is really cohesive. And so what can we do to get us there to say, all right, we know developers are going to come in. We know people have been buying land up already, right? For properties. But when it comes to the commercial stuff, if those owners are going to stay and rebuild versus selling, and some may sell, how do we then translate that into, we know it, we have to make sure the infrastructure is correct when we come back, right? Because we don't want anything like this in the future. We have to have the water resources. We have to have the electrical right. We know that we need street lighting, that the solar ones on the panel would be amazing.
Right.
Not only are they nice, not only will they bring out great lighting at dusk, but then it'll get dimmer so you can sleep at night, and they'll go amber. But
and
on
you
top,
can charge your car from them, and they can provide Wi-Fi.
and after they're in for a few years, you start making money as a community off of them.
Right.
That's a revenue generator, right? Those kinds of technologies and that thinking, we know we have to do going forward for our town to be sustainable for future generations. But I think where there may be a disconnect, and not necessarily with you, but with the community, is when are we going to start having these meetings that you can come into and say to the community, look, these are the things that should happen, or I could recommend that you all need to look at happening. And these are the steps, right? That's what I want to make sure you're pulled into with, and you might already be with Catherine's office or whatever with the county, but that's so incredibly important for us, because if nobody really knows it and you're an expert in that, but look at it with the eyes of, this is a burn down rebuild, not bad quality of life. It went to blight because.
So I didn't mention that bad quality of life. I wanted to mention in terms of, because one of the things Brandon Lamar brought up to me is the critical need for young folks in the community to work on the rebuilding, right?
Yes.
And so,
have input.
Right. We'll have input, but also know in the end, the job is there that pays.
That's right.
So
that's
part
right.
of infrastructure and part of rebuilding creates an opportunity to have decent, high-paying jobs, skilled and unskilled, in concentration at the abundance of numbers that Brandon and other people can feel confident we're able to employ a lot of Altadenians throughout this process, and those young Altadenians can grow up in their skill knowledge as it's happened. And I'll go back to the solar light fixture of Heidi Adams had created. That's a perfect solution because it's sustainable.
Yeah.
But imagine if a child helped install that.
Right.
That kid's going to be in high school saying, that light fixture I was involved in. But in that dynamic, that hands-on training, that kid has learned solar power, Wi-Fi capability, how something makes the community more sustainable. And they get to walk up and down the street where their proof of things has happened. What you've done is you've empowered that child to make something happen in their own community that makes their community a better place, right? And I say that because that's important for the succession of communities to become more success going forward, right? And but that's only one component. That's just the street lights.
Exactly.
And I talked about the water recycling facility. We talked about the need for parking structures, and you may not have understood it, but that's a revenue generator that also helps reduce the cost of investments. Because if you were rebuilding your commercial building on Lake Avenue, let's just use that for an example, and the county came in and says, you got to build 100 parking spaces, and you're like, well, I have to put some of them underground. And then you find out it costs $100,000 per space. You're like, well, I can't afford it. It makes my project unfeasible. Well, if the county sat back or some entity had built a parking structure so you didn't have to build one, it makes your deal more profitable, right? But then investors, so that's what, and I'm saying in terms of, that's the dynamics between identifying when the light fixture happens, the light pole, when the parking structure happens, when the recycling facility happens. That's just infrastructure so that you can do your commercial development to rebuild your property. but you're one of 10,000 buildings that may need to be rebuilt, right? And you want to make it all happen in the right sequences so that your project is successful. That's a dance. It's kind of almost like an intricate dance of investment, delivery of project, so that each one can be successful. And that really becomes an art. It's kind of like, I said to you and I on the panel, I said, it's like conducting an orchestra. You got a lot of talent, but you got to be able to manage when the talent speaks, when it plays, when it needs to be silent, right? And that whole combination of activities is what makes Altadena Rebuild successful. But you really want to have your vision, as you said, come from within the community, identify what it's going to be like in terms of buildings, walkability, but then you got to really have the main parts, the engine and the transmission or whatever, to make it run successfully. And all that take a series of investments, but you want to make sure you capitalize on it. So in the end, it's self-sustaining. Does that kind of answer your question? It's kind of like, it's a lot of.
It does, but I know Altadena, right? And I know that Altadena, there are parts that are walkable and that always have been, and there are parts that are not, because above Altadena Drive, we're not going to put businesses up there to say they got to be walkable. That's all residential. And there's a very small commercial area, and half of it was affected and half wasn't. But I think that there has to be some real deep discussions and deep thought on how we move forward for those rebuilds without developers coming in to just do what they want to do. That is the biggest.
No, I'm in agreement with that. That's why you want to have a vision plan. But let me give you an example of what.
So are you going to work with us on that vision plan?
Oh yeah, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
I mean,
I want to do this real quick because I don't want to ignore this one comment that came in. It was a question that says, and you kind of alluded to this on the 7 to 10 year mark, but once the infrastructure has been determined, whatever it ultimately looks like, what's an estimated time frame for completion?
Well, that's going to be a phase series. So if you think about it, luckily, and this is the blessing to Altadena, Senator Sasha Perez passed that infrastructure recovery legislation that makes it highly possible for you to attract the funding. But a time period, you're probably going to do it in 3 phases. So you could do it in 3 5-year increments of rebuilding the infrastructure to get the type of infrastructure you need. So you need about $1.5 billion infrastructure improvements. You could actually do 500 million in the first phase, 500 million in the second phase, and then do 500 million in the third phase. And
where does that funding come from?
Typically, you're going to likely have to do it with a combination of grants, philanthropies, and investors. And so let's say, for example, the street light, the solar lights can pay for themselves within 3 years. So if you were going to put the solar lights all throughout the Altadena, and let's say there's something like 2,000 light fixtures, you would likely get an investment strategy for someone to pay for all those light fixtures. And then after so many years, that revenue goes back to pay the investors back. That's how the county would do it. And your infrastructure, that's just one element, the light fixtures. So you really have to figure out what's the financial strategy to get private capital to pay for things first. And then you get bond financing. The thing that I say is, we're not going to get any federal funds because of the craziness in DC.
Exactly.
For at least 4 to 6 years. And I'll tell you why it could be like 6 years, because you got to wait for this administration to change.
Right.
The damage is going to have to be assessed. And then they start becoming purses to start contributing money to California. California gives out like 80 billion more than we receive.
Than we get. That's right. That's right.
So
that's right.
You have the opportunity to attract private investment to make things happen without relying on federal government. So when things are corrected, guess what? All our communities are much further ahead of what the rest of the nations are, right?
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to do. Okay.
Good. That's good information, because this kind of stuff and these roadmaps like this, if people do not know, and even like our town council may not know all the details of this stuff, right? They might sit in and hear some things, but if they don't know, and we're in the middle of an election cycle with our town council, right? So there are 8 seats open, and their voting starts on, I think, the 1st and goes through about the 8th. And then the 16th, the new people are sworn in, and it's for 2-year terms. But if they don't know, and all of those people now, and I'm glad to see there's a lot more diversity happening on the, people who are running, but everybody now is like, hey, I'm displaced, I lost my house, whatever, I need to be engaged and involved. So I'm super happy that we're having more engagement, civic engagement from people want to serve, because that's so important. But then these conversations, they need to be involved in as well.
And I want to share with you, we didn't get selected for the trailer concept, which, you and I had talked about. So hopefully we get selected on the next round. But the thing about that was that became a method. And the concern that's happening now is starting in March, families are going to start losing their ability to have rental paid by insurance companies under their policies. So the goal was with our trailers were, how do we landscape the lots, put families in a luxury trailer that they can start living on their properties where neighbor can be next to neighbor. And the purpose of that was to repopulate the community in the shortest time period. But then also you have a concentration of everybody building at the same time where you could weed out the bad contractors. But even that becomes a source of creating local employment, because doing the lot preparation is a very simple job, right? And so you have to start looking at like what activities happen. The main purpose of that was, how do you repopulate a full block, make it elegant, because we're putting a 10-foot tree with a light on it. That also makes it look like when the trailers go away, the homes are there. Because it's going to be a process of like doing a master plan community. So hopefully we get selected again, because we could do 100 families a month, which would be bringing back 100 income groups back to the lot. And I think that's a part of the healing, because suddenly neighbors start seeing neighbor next to each other, children start seeing each other, and you start driving that street you used to drive that you haven't been driving since the fire, going to school, going to work. But most importantly, Toni, that helps the businesses start to get income on the commercial corridors, right?
Right. So when will you apply again or whatever? If you weren't selected for this round, when is the next round where you all get to apply? And then what does that time frame look like from application to being notified whether or not you've been selected?
This time we turned the application in. I think we turned the application in June. But then they started making a decision around September. And then, they came back to us. We thought it was going to be grants, and then they told us it had to be a loan. So we had to figure out how to make it a construction loan to the families. But then we figured it out. So we had figured out, and then I think by September 2nd, we had turned the information in, and then we were told, I guess about 3 weeks ago, that we weren't selected for this round. So we've asked for a debrief to figure out why, but hopefully we'll make the next round. So I'll keep you abreast of that as well.
So I wonder, do you have to like say you get a debrief, right? And they say, oh, this, and this, and you go back and you address this, and that, and change it. Do you then for next round have to reapply, or they all automatically keep all those who didn't get it in the system, and you say,
I think this
part of the debrief.
But you and I kind of talked about that. The thing is, this is one of my concerns. So there's about $600 million in pledges and philanthropic money that has been committed to Altadena and Palisades Fire, right?
Right.
And one of the purposes of trying to urgently repopulate it using the trailers landscape project was, if another disaster happens anytime between now and the next 2 or 3 years, Altadena is going to shift in priority. Because every time there's an emergency disaster, people want to go to those that need it right now. And they'll say like, okay, the resident of Altadena, they're okay, but we know they're not okay. And so what means is, remember I talked about residual money? There goes some money. One of the things I think philanthropists want to see is their money happen and dispense fast, right? Right. So it's one of the reasons why we were saying the trailer concept dispenses money fast, but it gives the most tangible result faster. And then families can take the insurance money and focus on rebuilding their house, right? That's the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
didn't know that,
but I hope so. We would like to be putting the families on the lots now. We had anticipated doing 7 to address what's called unforeseen conditions, because something always comes up. But then we were going to do 40, and then we were going to scale up to do 100 a month, right? And 100 a month would dispense about $10 million a month in terms of getting families on the lots, but that's a good bang for your buck, right?
So, and if you, go through this process, application, all that, and get it, just so people can know a little bit more about it, you put them in a luxury trailer, they live there.
For about for anybody from 3 to 9 months, because The thing
during
is, they immediately go to rebuilding the main house or building an ADUs if they choose to. Like, for example, the house that I'm designing now has 2 ADUs and a main house. So they could have put the 3-bedroom ADU in the backyard, and then the trailer goes away for another family to use, and then they can focus on rebuilding the main house, right? And that's the process, is start to get the people back in the neighborhoods. It's kind of like a military logistics. I used to do military facilities. So we designed the concept around how would the military do something logistically to make something start operating? And that's what it was based on.
Good. Okay, good. That's important. And I wanted to just address that a little bit and let people hear from you about what this concept is, because, you know, I'm kind of saddened that you all weren't selected, because that would have been so great, right? Also, I don't know how often you come out to Altadena, but
I'm out I'm out to Altadena like 3 to 4 times a month. I'm actually designing 3 houses right now. So even after the fire since February, you know, it's funny because my wife Michelle used to always, why are you going to Altadena?
Right. Who you going to see in Altadena? Michelle, it's me.
She's like, are you working on clients? But no, I don't like I've seen how our communities die. Disasters accelerate the death of our communities because people will give up if it takes too long. And that's happening pretty much in abundance. And then also you have widowers and widows who live out there. They know nothing about this construction process. And to ask an 84, 85-year-old lady or a man to say, oh, you got to hire an architect, you got to do this, that's foreign language to them. And it's stressful.
Yeah.
You're trying to recover from loss of everything. The thing that broke my heart coming out to Altadena was like watching people walk around knowing people are dying or their relatives have died and they're still alive. So how do you help them heal fast as possible and they get their houses back?
The survivor's guilt can be extremely traumatic for people. And, you know, I held a town hall March 8th. I talked to you about that, a builder's town hall. And people were like, why are you doing that? That's only 2 months after the fire. I said, because I don't want people to get stuck in depression and grief and not be able to move forward. So if you say, here's a bunch of, and I didn't know you because I'd have had you on the panel if I did, but here's a bunch of architects, here's a bunch of builders that can talk to you about the process, right? About the permitting process, about the design process, to give you an overall view and say, and it could be, you know, as short as 3 months where you get your permit or whatever, as long as a year to rebuild total or whatever. I didn't want people, including my parents at 83 and 88, right, just get stuck and be like, oh my God, we lost everything. We have no hope. I wanted to make sure people knew there is a process, but there is also hope in that process.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one thing. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Mention it. There, an organization is being set up now. I can't recall the name in this moment. Actually, it's to help make houses happen faster. A collaboration of developers and home builders are unified so that a homeowner, let's say, you know, you got $600,000 insurance payment. Since they've already built homes in other part of LA, they can come up and say, this is a $600,000 house. We have these different models you can choose from. And then just they can do like a turnkey solution to that homeowner. And that organization, I think, just got announced a couple of weeks ago. And
wait, what was that? Help make home what?
They make it happen faster. It's kind of like, I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of like CarMax delivering cars to homeowners where you got $600,000. This is the house we built. You can see it. It's already been built in some other part of LA. It's like a master plan community, but then a homeowner can select the house. It can be their language that ties into Altadena. And then they can get the house built real fast. That way, the person doesn't have to go through the stress of like, I had to hire an architect, then a contractor.
Yeah. That's so like Foothill Collection.
Yeah, Foothill Collection is an example of that. Exactly.
And then Genesis Builders, who I'm bringing on, I believe next Thursday, also have a whole catalog, and they're already pre-approved by the county. And there's like the craftsman style, but there's 3 or 4 different models. Right. And everything, including appliances, are encapsulated in this package.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll be very beneficial to making it happen faster. And the beautiful thing about that, when that happens fast, and that helps you start having the demand to be able to put in a brand new infrastructure, right? So you kind of need the housing to happen fast to be able to support the infrastructure. So
Yeah.
I'll stop right there. But yeah, I think it's B. Sue is running that organization. I'm having like a senior moment, but when I remember the name,
It's okay. So look, I'll let you think about that and we'll answer hopefully this question. This one came in. How can the community at large get educated on not just what's being proposed in Altadena, but also on how the whole process of infrastructure change works, who the players are, and how they fit into the process?
So that's where you and I talked about this on the panel. You want to kind of look at it like a master program with the key things that you talked about. What's the vision for each corridor? What's the vision for in terms of adding solar lights and things up the streets? And then you put that in what's called a program, meaning like a master program where that company entities working with the community and the supervisor's office and public works to make sure each of those components happens sequentially when necessary. So at some point, I hope there is a master programmer to make that happen. And if you looked at how LAX has modernized itself, that's the staff of LAX, which would be like the residents of Altadena, working with a program manager, which is a combination of architects, engineers, and people that manage when you should build this part so that this other part can be successful. So to answer the person's question, that's kind of the next step in terms of whether that comes from the Public Works Department or if that comes from a combination of the community. You really want to establish a program manager and have the community be part of that program management. So that way everybody gets their items addressed. But that's where I said you're conducting the orchestra. And
yeah.
So
I think that is part of what Catherine, like I said, whatever she was calling it, the ARC, the ARRC.
The Altadena Rebuild Corporation, I think it's called.
Yes, yes.
Altadena Rebuild. I think that's the mission. I know one entity set up focused on housing, the rebuilding of the homes. One set up on rebuilding the commercial and the infrastructure needs. And again, a program manager would combine both of those to make sure everybody's hitting success. Okay. It's kind of
but Altadena, I'm glad you said that. Altadena Recovery and Rebuild Corporation. So ARRCaltadena.org, which is a nonprofit that Catherine put together. But when I tell you, I haven't heard about any meetings. I've met a couple people that are supposed to be, on it, or the main executive director or whatever. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And everybody keeps saying nothing.
Well, it's probably one of the things it's just been set up after the disaster, and it was probably a discovery of the need 6 months, 7 months after this happened. And one of the, I got to commend Supervisor Barger because I've watched things get rebuilt. The proactiveness of her efforts and her team has been, and I'm not just saying this, outstanding in response of terms of what needs to happen and trying to make it happen, because government can only do so much, but they have done a lot in terms of the government's ability. But then when you take the connection between how does a county supervisor implement what she can, working with public works, and then you take the power of what Senator Perez has done by giving you an infrastructure finance district based on sustainability, you're starting to connect the dots between local, state, and whenever the federal government gets the right entities, that powerful political connection to help drive the private sector capital you need. So I just wanted to say that you all are in a great position to recover better than most communities have before. Now it's a matter of getting the capital and the right projects going.
But you know what? I hear you, and I'm glad you're saying that. But when I look at the board and the leadership and board of directors of this ARRC,
I haven't seen it.
Jamal can bring it back up. There is one African-American woman on it. All the rest are white people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white men, 6 white men, 2 white women, 1 African-American woman who happens to be the executive director of the Pasadena Senior Center. But her husband, Catherine's husband, is on it. Managing director of this particular thing, managing director of Northern Cross. That doesn't represent our community well. And when you talk about the residual and African-American and Latino communities or Black and brown communities being overlooked and getting the scraps, this board doesn't represent us well. It's not even diverse because Altadena is very diverse, not just black and white, but we've got everything, Latino, Asian, everything. This board is not reflective of that.
Right.
And so how much are they really going to listen to Altadena?
I think that's a valid question. And I think it's a valid question. You know, it looks like a very high level, almost like how do we make this work legally in terms of, but that is in some ways a component of how to make it look legally. But then there's going to be subgroups, and there needs to be, like I said, more of a group that's reflective of the Altadena community. And you are going to need a balance between professionals.
They live in San Marino, and well, there is one lady, Kathy Guntiklek or whatever, who is a partner with Ernst & Young, but she's an Altadena resident. She lost her home in the Eden fire in Altadena. But a lot of these people, it's just, it to me, it's just like,
it's not reflective of the community.
Exactly. And there may be people that are, you know, executives from other places, so they either have lived in Altadena or, you know, work in Altadena or Pasadena or whatever. But let's be reflective truly. And not that you have anything to do with this or can change it.
I did not set up that board because I would have been
exactly. But now that I pulled it up because I said, what is the name of it? And we talked about it. This is the kind of stuff that we keep saying, right? In the other communities, we're overlooked. You guys don't listen to us. So how is somebody going to, where's the diversity representation?
Well, so that's one of the reasons why I said, you know, I do know the dynamics of changing community for the better. I do understand the passion, and I also understand how we've had missed opportunities or get overlooked, or just as you said, some people saying this is what you need to do. And it's like, no, that's not what you need to do. Right. So that's why I said it's a balance of the dance of how to make it all happen. But your point is valid and correct. But I still must say, I got it, you know, in terms of dynamics, I remember after the riots in LA in 92, I've watched disasters and I've watched how we've constantly missed out on opportunities. But I still have to say, the response from that office in terms of proactiveness and getting these infrastructure things and things in place has been more positive in the past. And it may be based on learning from the past of what's not happening. But what you're saying is the diversity and the reflection of Altadena still and must be incorporated to make that successful, right? And also the other part and importance of that is it makes it smoother. One of the things is this is like dating, right? Because even though people are coming together that may not have known each other, but have the skills or either some resource we need, it's got to be harmonic, and we got to know that we can get along and work together. And I'm being heard.
Yes.
And, you know, not dismissed because you think I don't know, but I'm willing to know. So everybody has to be open-mindedness. So that they can listen. And, you know, this is, you know, where I go back to Martin Luther King and those type of folks who were open, and even Tom Bradley, open-minded enough to say, that sounds like a good idea. Now show me how it works, right?
Yeah.
And now this is my concern, right? Where are my children? Where am I? Where are the people of the community in the process? I don't want people coming in here making money and just going away like it often happens, right? So
right.
Okay?
No,
like
that's
said, we want to make sure Altadenians are the ones that are main part, to the extent we can, building the community back.
Exactly. And that was who did you say?
Brandon Lamar, the president.
Oh, yeah. Brandon.
That's my right. So on the panel.
No, Brandon. Yeah, definitely. He was like,
I love him. I saw that institute he was running. I was like, God, it gave me goosebumps. Helping the kids out of school.
In Harambe?
Yeah.
So let me tell you, Brandon is, and I don't mean this derogatorily, like, you know, people say, oh, you're Jamaican, you got like 10 jobs. Brandon might have some Jamaican ancestry, because when I tell you, he's the young adult pastor at our church, young adult youth pastor at my church. He's NAACP president of Pasadena.
Sure is.
Passion Project, Harambe executive director.
And
he sits on a bunch of other boards.
He sure did.
And ran for city council. Didn't happen. He might do another run in the future.
Probably gonna get it next time.
Yeah, but I'm like, Brandon, when do you sleep, bro? And he's like, Tony, you know I don't, you know, or whatever. But
it's so common.
Thank God he has a nice wife now that they got married about a year ago. She takes great care of him too. But Brandon is so busy and just out there. But as you have seen, those of us from Altadena are so passionate about our community. Like we be ready to go to bat and fight folks about Altadena and, Pasadena, the greater community, because we cannot allow us to be forgotten. We cannot allow anything to happen that just arbitrarily does damage and harm to us, right? We've already suffered enough as a community, and I'm talking about Black and brown communities and, all of that, and as a people. And this is prime opportunity. When I look at this board, people have talked about gentrification, and they don't want to see all of us sell houses because we know who will buy them and come in, and it will be lily white again, like it was in the 1800s when it was formed. And so this board reflects that. You have literally one African-American, and it's a woman. That's cool. But you don't have a Latino. You don't have an Asian.
Decision making, or that's going to make happen, right? And
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, no, it needs to be that.
And I did apply to be part of this arc, and I wasn't selected, obviously. But as a long time Altadena resident. But if now this is the main overarching umbrella board, y'all need to have committees, subcommittees, or whatever, and it needs to be those from the area that are diverse and represent the area that now needs to sit on it. And this board, I'm assuming, is like, because how is Catherine on this board if she's already chair of?
Well, it makes sense because she's a county supervisor, but you're still, I agree with you.
But she's a director on the board.
Right. You need the diversity.
That's not a conflict?
No, I don't think so, because she's a county supervisor, so she's trying to help you realize there's not a conflict. But I think one of the things that Altadena represents is the opportunity to show how to build our communities back better and to make our communities sustainable. And if showing how that's done right in Altadena, then we can replicate that successful business model so that all Black and brown communities can be profitable to themselves. And when you achieve that, Toni, then you've made the community where the next generation will be successful. One of my missions is kids do not need to grow up in poverty, right?
No.
And it's a matter of changing the community. I guarantee you, once you demonstrate Black communities and brown communities are gold mines. Once you transform those into self-sustaining places, everybody's going to want to replicate it. But it's the competition that money always cuts us out. One of my objectives is make money want to go into where we are, because they know that money's going to grow, and take care of the existing folks first, the existing businesses first, and make them a part of the solution in LA. That can be done. And then that makes everybody profitable. We won't have any more low-income impacted places. People want to live here. Singapore is a perfect example of how a country graduated itself out of poverty. They don't have poverty anymore. I mean, they still have homelessness, but the homelessness of a few people coming from trying to get away from China and other countries. But that's what LA can be. It can be abundant. We can have a greater quality of life, and Black and brown communities can be the joyous place to live. Anyway, I'll stop there. But I'm grateful.
No, but again, you said that's what LA could be. We're not LA, and we're not a city.
No. I mean LA County.
You're saying LA County, right?
But I'm just talking about the whole metropolitan area. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
But we're not a metropolitan area. We're a suburban area in Altadena.
So there are 88 cities and 140 unincorporated areas. Altadena is one of those unincorporated areas. And what I mean by that is every place can be its own jewel. No low action.
Okay.
Wherever
Got you.
You go. And especially where we are. Okay. Especially where we are.
And I only say that just because, and I know you and I talked about this already, right? Even when people call Altadena, and all of that, we talked about all that.
Yeah, you got to correct me on my language. I'm from St. Louis. I still ain't lost my accent.
No. You and I heard you all. You see, I didn't correct you on it today because I know, and you and I have had these conversations, which are great. Other people don't know our conversations, but the fact is, like, I respect your knowledge so much, and what you know, and your expertise of what you can bring to Altadena to help us. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought you on the show, right? But I truly do. And I'm gonna tell you if not, but I truly do. But my thing is, again, I say things because of what we hear, right? And yes, there is a level of fear within our own community. And so this is not bad banter or anything. This is, I'm going to interject to you what I hear, and then you're going to tell me, yeah, I get that. However, A, B, C, and D have to happen and need to happen. So I know I'm going to have you back on because people are going to be like, you got to bring him back for some stuff. And I think it would be great to have you sit, you, Brandon, me, and some others do maybe a round table in the community that we can start this process of working with the AARC to see like, what is your master thought, right? Or not master, we're not going to use that word anymore. What is your main thought for Altadena? What are you doing, right, to help bring in capital, to help sit down with the community, all of the community, not only folks that don't look like us, but everybody, because we're so diverse and eclectic, and decide this is really what the community needs, right? As far as this is how we have to get there, but this is what the community wants. So how do we match the want to the need?
That's correct.
Get to the center and move forward to rebuild the commercial areas, the infrastructure, and all of that. So we're going to be connected at the hip because I'm going to be calling you like, Michael, I need you to come to this meeting. Michael.
Yeah, and all I want to do is help. I'm gonna tell you, my passion is if I'm gonna tell you, if the community has some Black or brown in it, I'm here to help. Right.
That's it. And you said that from the beginning when we met, and I'm super appreciative. So I know we're just over an hour, by about 6 minutes, but we could go on for hours, so we're not going to do that. But I want to leave it where if anybody has any other questions, please put them in the chat. I know Jamal and Brian in a moment will pop back in, and if they have any comments or questions, they'll ask you or make comments. Okay. And then just to say that Michael's wife is a therapist, y'all. I just found this out. Like, he told me she was awesome and all that, but he never told me she was a therapist. And you know that we are doing these Wellness Wednesdays and have a therapist coming on tomorrow. We had Dr. T come back on a couple of weeks ago. And so before we started, she was in the background. I was like, sis, come close to the camera. And her name is Michelle. And so Michelle is going to be coming on as well in maybe the next month or something. We'll get schedules coordinated because I know that she will be a valuable resource to our community as a whole, the Altadena Talks community, the Altadena Pasadena community, and those that may need some additional help or resources or whatever. So I'm super thankful you came in today and came on with us. And I so look forward. And I told you that before, like, dude, I already know we could talk for hours and there's so much that I could be like, okay, what about this? And what about this? And you go, no, Toni, that ain't right. But we can do this, this, and this. So I love that because I'm learning so much and so much from you. Also, put your book up again, please, because I do want people to see it. Urban, your book.
Oh, Urban Magic. Mm-hmm.
Urban Magic.
Vibrant Black and Black possible.
Yes, I know that people can Google that, and I think it's available on the Amazon as well. Mm-hmm. You guys take a look at this Urban Magic book, see what it is. It will definitely, thank you, Jamal. This will definitely help people as we move forward understand how, and I need to go order mine today on Amazon, but
that was a 21-year project. And I want to say it actually is kind of, some people have called it a roadmap, a blueprint to make positive change in communities, because it even addresses down to what do the kids see based on my experience of what young children have experienced. And I actually share this real quickly. I built some houses in Leimert Park. Rodale's mother was strung out on crack and Rodale was something else. I had him start helping me clean the alley. I asked him for his report card. He said, "You're not my daddy. I ain't got to show you my report card." I was like, "I ain't got to pay you to clean the alley." Kid went on to be a straight A student and the teacher's assistant in one semester. And then his brothers and 6 friends showed up at the door because I gave Rodale $20 for a good report card. And they said, "We want to help you clean the alley."
Oh, wow.
Clean the alley. They wanted to go through the same journey Rodale went through, right? And that's what drives me in this work.
Yeah.
Want to be better.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring the work.
So we can have a whole nother show all about that in your book and all of that. And we will at another day. I'm serious. We will. So thank you so much, Michael. I cannot thank you enough. Like I told you at the panel, I could see this is going to be a long-term relationship that we have because
I love my people and I love it. So
Jamal and Brian, do you want to pop back in before we say toodles to Michael? And if you have any comments.
Michael, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you coming on. A wealth of knowledge. I'm just curious, what was the reception for the experience that you're bringing to the table by the people in Altadena when it came to the recovery and the information you're able to provide for the infrastructure rebuild and that kind of thing?
So
Because I'm
I've
sure
been very
folks
helpful.
can talk to.
And it's interesting because some of the people, there's a group that's trying to focus on rebuild the corridors. None of them were making infrastructure a priority, right? And then when I share with them, you have infrastructure funded first, it'll be easy for you to get capital for your projects, right? And that's what we often look at. Our history has been like, oh, we're going to build a new community center to replace this building that's burned down. Like, community center won't make jobs. It'll be a place for recreation. Infrastructure makes you make other jobs, makes Black restaurants be able to open, helps you have a quality of life, because the streets is a part of the quality of life. When I come to your shop, my experience of walking down that tree-lined street, when it gets dark early and the streets are well lit and having a parking structure and good ass on the street, that's going to help your business grow. So those are the things I know. I'm really driven by what's called economic chemistry. How do you program investments to make the right economic chemistries so that our communities benefit? And that's really what drives me. So the reception has been powerful. And I've had to explain to a lot of people the importance of infrastructure, reducing the cost for you to build whatever it is you want your community to be. So
Yeah, it was educational to me. I didn't realize how important it potentially could be. But it makes sense if you really think about it. If you build the foundation, just like when you're building a home, you got to have the foundation. If it's well put together, then your home is actually going to be far
So I'll
more
give you a quick
secure.
example in 2 minutes. I'll try.
Yeah.
Santa Monica, the city of Santa Monica built parking structures. 3rd Street Promenade could never take off. When they built those parking structures on 2nd and 4th Street, and some of them have retail on the first floors, none of the businesses had to provide parking. And that's what made it boom, right? Now Santa Monica tells developers, you don't have to build parking, because they built so much parking that developers can use, and you never know it. Some of it's in residential areas. And I say that because taking parking out of the cost of building brings the money you need, right? And it also allows you to have lower rents, right? So those are the dynamics we have to understand. How can I make it cheaper for people to rent in our community and still be profitable and have a great quality of life? And so that's the dynamic.
I think it's a valid point. And to the question that was posed earlier about how, the community at large can get educated, I think that's a huge part of the success of anybody coming in, trying to make some sort of changes or, even proposals, even if the stuff was going to be the same, making sure that the community at large understood what exactly was being proposed and how the process works to get, either an idea modified because of the input from the community. Maybe they only want 75% of the proposed idea. And then as it's modified, how does it then get, laid out and become reality? So,
and one of the things I want to show is I want to help educate people in our communities of what it is you need to do for you to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So I have to walk a line, but I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to accept to allow the child, I wouldn't allow my child to say, I don't want to do that way, right? And I'm like, but you need to do that way for you to be more successful than me, right? I have to have that dance, right? Because she has to be a self-independent adult, right? And so we have to think about that dynamic as well, right? So but that's why we have to be transparent, right?
I think that's huge, because people don't know what they don't know. And you're able to shed some light on stuff that they've never had to think about, because they're not architects. They've never been part of the infrastructure rebuild, and especially haven't been recovering from a disaster like this. So,
well, see, a lot of architects like doing buildings. I call us like vertical graffiti artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
My passion has been economics and quality of life. Buildings just play a role in that. The quality of life is what we want in our communities, right? Those things that Toni was talking about, we know what we want. That means they know the quality of life they want, right? And so when I used to do all these studies, I gave Toni an example that when I was doing studies in the 90s, every Black community told me, I want a Starbucks or Kinko's, right? And now they were like, I want a Trader Joe's. I'm like, okay, Starbucks means you want the quality of life you saw Starbucks in the 90s, right? When you say you want Trader Joe's, you want the quality of life you see Trader Joe's. That's an average lot income equation, right? That's what makes Trader Joe's come. So what you're really saying is, how do I get that quality of life where I see those stores? That's what drives me. That's a combination of household income, what's activities on commercial corridors. If you're familiar with Montana Street in Santa Monica, right? Simple one-story buildings, right? Right? Why? Because the households make $500,000 to $1 million a year in the bank, right? So my goal has been, how do we make our lot incomes hit $200,000? Well, that's what the benefit of ADUs are, living on mom's lot. And it creates a better quality of life because I paid for my grandmother's house. Then I had to live with my grandmother. I learned if I was living in the backyard, I still have my place, she has her place. But then I ain't got to check on her because I see her every day.
Right.
And that's a quality of life issue. So I better stop because I'll go and start a whole nother Toni program. So anyway, thank you all so much for having me. I'm glad, Brian, it's a pleasure to meet you all. I love what you all are doing. I tell you, that moves me so much that you all are making a voice for your community to be a better place. And I'm grateful to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. We just wanted to make sure that other situations that involve disasters would use this as a prototype to start up something in their community, because you heard about the San Antonio floods a few months ago. You're not hearing anything about it since. We don't get the news coverage that we need in certain communities, and those communities need it. So I'm glad we have this too.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Hope to have you come on again, Michael.
I'm glad to help. I'll pass on Michelle's information later this afternoon. I got to run to a 12 o'clock, hop to a 12 o'clock, really. So
if I don't hear from you in 2 days on it, I'll be in touch. I'll be
don't worry. I'm going to tell you, she'll be on my butt.
You already know. I'll be like, excuse me, sir. Where's her info? All right. Thank you, Michael. God bless. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
And we're back. For more excitement, I believe that Jamal is ready to do the announcements.
Certainly. And here we go. All right, everybody. We have the Altadena Community Center. But these are the folks who are at stage one. They're trying to figure out all the details on how to begin the process of recovery. Just a recap of what this is for. This is located at 730 East Altadena Drive in Altadena. They're available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. If you scan the QR code that's on the screen, you'll be able to actually see all the actual services that are going to be there, because as you see at the top, FEMA stopped attending this particular location on the 17th of October. They can still be utilized. You got to contact them directly, but they're not actually at this community center. And then we have the One Stop Permit Center. It's at 464 West Woodbury Road, Suite 210 in Altadena. Walk-in hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30. The rebuild consultation appointments are also available. They're on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., as well as Saturdays from 8 to noon. We'll also have Southern California Edison planning appointments that are available Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 to noon. You would have to go to recovery.lacounty.gov/rebuilding/1-stop-permit-centers. When you get to that page, scroll all the way to the bottom till you get to the Altadena section. Click the link for schedule the appointment, and you can fill out all that information. The county's waiving and refunding permit fees for homeowners rebuilding after the Eden Palace fires. Basically, if you've already paid your fees, you can potentially have them refunded. If you've yet to pay the fees, you can have them potentially waived. You do have to qualify. And to qualify, you have to demonstrate that you both owned and lived in your property prior to the 7th of January of this year. And only certain projects are eligible, such as the replacement of your single-family home that was destroyed by the fire. And that does include accessory structures such as garages, ADUs, and pools. And other projects which are allowed are standalone ADUs for temporary occupancy during the rebuild. It's not eligible, though, is commercial, rental, multifamily, or temporary housing projects. nor those projects or properties that were not damaged by the fires. Now, to actually apply for the fee or the waiver, you scan the QR code to get to the form, or you can go to the website recovery.lacounty.gov/fee-waivers-and-refunds. Once you actually get there, fill out the form online and save it and attach it to an email and send that to recovery@planning.lacounty.gov, or you can print up a copy and walk it into one of the offices at the one-stop permit center. And you only need one form for all the departments. Now, the Calasis Mortgage Fund is providing mortgage payment relief. It's 3 months of mortgage payments up to a maximum amount of $20,000. You don't have to pay it back. It's free to apply. And all the grants, should you actually get one, will be paid directly to your mortgage servicer and not directly to you. For eligibility requirements, your primary residence must have been destroyed or considered uninhabitable due to a qualified disaster between the 1st of January 23 through the 8th of January of 2025. That obviously includes the Eaton and Palisades fires. You also must have owned and occupied your home up to 4 units on the property, and they have new income combined limits. Now it's $211,000. If you do apply for this, be prepared to provide a copy of your mortgage statement, bank statements, homeowners insurance or FEMA claims, proof of income, and utility bills. And you would actually go to the website, calisismortgagefund.org, to actually apply. And at the top of the page, when you get there, there is a button that says apply. If you need some assistance filling this out, you can call 1-800-501-0019 and get assistance Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you need some in-person assistance, you can actually get that at either the One Stop Rebuilding Center at 1828 Sawtell Boulevard or at the Altadena Community Center, again at 730 East Altadena Drive in Altadena. And this is available 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now, locally, every Monday and Tuesday, Project Passion and the folks at Harambe are providing the Freedom Stores for the Eaton Fire survivors, and it is provided by appointment only from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Harambe is located at 1609 Navarro Avenue in Pasadena, and in order to set your appointment, you do have to either scan the QR code or you can go to the website tinyurl.com/Harambe Freedom Store. And items will vary from toiletries to home essentials and much more. The Eaton Health Village is providing a free medical and mental health clinic. It's every Monday and Wednesday from 12 to 5. It's at 1280 East Washington Boulevard in Pasadena. You can either walk in or make a phone call to schedule your appointment. The phone number is 951-595-7032. And just so you know, some of the services provided are medical consultations, medication refills, and mental health services and case management. That's each Monday and Wednesday. And monthly, one of those Mondays and Wednesdays, they have vision and dental health. LA County Department of Mental Health is providing free support classes with the topic of dealing with disaster and how to cope and thrive. These will continue now through the 29th of November, except on Veterans Day and Thanksgiving Day. They will be Tuesdays from 5 to 6:30, and then Thursdays and Saturdays from 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. They'll take place at the Loma Park, which is at 3330 North Lincoln Avenue in Altadena. And if you would like more information about these classes, please contact Dr. Michelle Majors at area code 626-430-2930. And there's a free clothes for fire victims and immigrants and those who need it today from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. It'll be at My Zero Waste Store, which is at 25 South El Molino Avenue in Pasadena. There's going to be clothes, shoes, and hats available for all ages, bags, scarves, and other accessories as well. If you'd like more information, you can reach out to 626-590-9482. And then the laundrytruckla.com is providing their laundry services. It was today. Today the drop off is from 12 to noon at 611 East Sierra Madre Boulevard in Sierra Madre. Excuse me. They will also have 2 locations tomorrow, one at the Altadena Adventist Church at 2609 North Lincoln Avenue, and then at First AME Church at 1700 North Raymond Avenue in Pasadena. Those drop-off hours are 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And once you drop off your clothes, you come back in a couple hours, and they will have washed, dried, and folded them. It's a great service if you need it. And then Healing Together Support Group is providing free grief and loss support group for LA fires. It's every single Wednesday. It is from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's at the Maxwell House, which is located at 55 South Grand Avenue in Pasadena, as well as being virtual. It's for anyone impacted by the recent fires, and they're asking for adults only, please, and it is free of charge. If you'd like additional information, you can contact Joanne Diaz Vogel at 818-395-8066 or joannekogel@gmail.com. And then again, every Wednesday, we have the We Out Here Market provided by Juicy Little Thrift Store. It is from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at world famous Fair Oaks Burger at 2560 North Fair Oaks Avenue. Pardon me again. You do need to provide proof of residency to make sure that you are an Altadena resident. Some of the free items that will be there are it's going to be a farmer's market, free vegan hot meals, groceries, hygiene products, thrift store pop-up, legal advice, love and prayers, and much more. They do ask that you bring a bag, and should you want additional information, you can reach out to Juice. The Hollywood Food Coalition is continuing their community food distribution. The next one will be tomorrow, the 29th, at the main library parking lot in Altadena, 600 East Mariposa Avenue, or Street rather, from 11 a.m. to 12. They do ask that you please bring your own bag and get there as quickly as possible because supplies are limited and it is first come, first served. The Altadena Cookie Company is having a grand opening at 3027 North Lincoln Avenue. It'll be tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you have any questions or would like additional information, you can reach out at 626-989-1437. And the Altadena Library District is also presenting mental health wellness workshops for older adults. The next one will be Thursday, the 6th of November, discussing holiday blues. It'll be at Bob Lucas Library, which is 2659 Lincoln Avenue in Altadena. And of course, last but definitely not least, is the Altadena Talks Foundation's A Day of Thanks Community Luncheon. It's taking place Saturday, November 22nd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be at the Loma Alta Park Gymnasium at 3330 North Lincoln Avenue in Altadena. It is for Altadena residents who did lose their home to the fire or their home was considered uninhabitable. When you do fill out the form by either scanning the QR code or going to altadenatalks.org/ATF meal sign up, you will have to provide proof in the form of a copy of your license. We do ask that you block out your license number, of course, but we just need to see the picture and the address associated with this to make sure that you were a resident, and this is a free meal for everybody who fits that category or the requirements. And we really look forward to having you come out. As of yesterday, I'm not sure what happened to Toni, but as of yesterday, we had I think it was 180 folks who had signed up. We have capacity for much more, so please sign up. share it with your family and friends who were impacted by the fire, who lost their homes or what have you. And we definitely look forward to seeing you there. And the cutoff, the deadline is this Saturday. Let's see. Oh, she had to run. All right, B, got you back on the screen. It was a pretty good conversation with Michael Anderson. He, let's see. Marcus says, another great episode. Thanks for continuing to bring on the experts and guests that add value and hope to the recovery process. One love. Absolutely, Marcus. Glad you're getting value from this. Hopefully everyone who watches live or the recording actually gets value as well. I think we're getting some pretty good folks. We obviously have a lot of other people we'd like to get on. I know we're trying to get Catherine Barger on and a few other folks that we've been working on. So if there's anyone you'd like to see, go ahead and text us in the chat, or you can always email us, altadenatalks@gmail.com, info@altadenatalks.com, and we'll definitely try to get some folks on for you.
I just wanted to give some special shout outs to our Instagram community. I see we have Anthony Tunstall 360. We have Violet Aguilar W. We have Open Arms Charity LA. Thank you for joining us, as well as a few others who came on early. We didn't get a chance to shout you out. Shout out to Jake G75. Jake used to own the smoke shop that was right next to the Rancho. And we hope speedy recovery to building back in the community.
Hold that before you move on, because Marcus has a question that kind of pertains to him. Are small business owners that lost their businesses but not their homes able to attend the Day of Thanks? That's something we specifically haven't discussed, but
I believe that we can make an exception for that.
Yeah,
I know Toni will probably agree. I'm going to go ahead and speak on my behalf, not hers. But I would suggest that if you did have a business, to me, that's considered to be your home in the community because you provided an economic way to sustain our community.
Yeah.
So I believe that should be an exception. So you can, if you want to upload your business license or whatever it is to prove that you had a business in Altadena, I think that would be sufficient.
Yep, I concur. Great question too, Marcus. Thank you.
Speaking on that, Jake, I expect you to be at the dinner if you're still on. Jake actually has offered me to set up the podcast in front of some of his pop-ups so that as his customers come up and they were Altadena residents, we could get a quick interview on how they are dealing with this situation. And it's funny because I'm looking at this camera that I just set up in front of me and it's not even on. It's literally right below this one. So I need to come back to it. I'm practicing for this other thing I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be community stories. Speaking of community stories, the TED Talks again, I'm still overwhelmed with joy of how I actually got to hear some other stories from different perspectives. And I'm still going back and watching them because, as we are watching, as we are there controlling the show, we don't necessarily pay attention. We only look for cues, like when they wanted to put their slides up and when they wanted to do this. And, we had Carly, bad master of the teleprompter, doing what she did, and as well as keeping the run of show intact and putting the slides up.
She was like a DJ.
Yeah.
She had keyboard on one hand and the other keyboard on the other hand, was trying to keep them both going.
So I'm just going to tell you, Carly, you deserve a fat dinner gift certificate to a nice place, courtesy of me personally. I don't know how we're going to do it through the nonprofit, but I personally want to thank you for doing that. And she was a volunteer, but I think all volunteers should be recognized. So once we get the list of volunteers, I will be doing a special show. I would love to bring the volunteers on to find out how they perceived the whole event. There was a lot of running around, and like I told everybody, they said, "What's the best part of the show?" I'd be like, "When it's over," because that means we're done. It's a wrap. Nothing else is going on. But at the same time, I've never been on a production where I was part of the controlling force of making it happen. Now, we learned a lot after the show, and we learned that we need to have as many spare cables as possible because whatever can go wrong will go wrong. We wanted to hook up the fiber cables, but I was afraid people were going to step on them. We were having some connectivity problems. We had a lot of things going on before the show started, but at the 11th hour and 59th minute, we were able to pull it off. So the next one's going to be greater, but the first one is always a learning experience.
So, it definitely was.
Special shout out though to Brent Musson, who throughout this whole thing, I don't know if he had a nervous breakdown that following morning, but that dude is cool as rain.
Oh my God!
Never gets excited.
Cool,
never raises his voice. Huh?
They say cool is the other side of the pillow.
Yeah, he kept his composure.
Sure.
I kept looking at his wife. I was wanting to make sure that it was, to the levels of her approval.
Yeah.
We were behind 20 minutes, but we made that up during lunch. The band that you saw playing was actually supposed to be over at Bob Lucas, but we were having some technical difficulties over there because the sound in the beginning was a little bit janky, but we fixed that. They ended up coming over there. They ended up being live on the main stage. And as they were playing, we showed it the board that was being written upon with all the different sayings and phrases and signatures. And I mean, it was a variety show almost, because you had all these different elements moving and there really wasn't a leader. We all became the leader. Mm-hmm. So there was no issues with subordination, hierarchy. It was all hands on deck. Sort of like if you're the captain of a ship and there's a big hole and there's only 5 sailors, I would believe you would get down there instead of staying on board. We're almost there, man. You better get down there and get helping, or none of you will be there. So I don't really want to take up too much time. We've been on almost for an hour and 37 minutes. So once again, thank you all for making this 205th episode. I know yesterday I said 2004.
That's what you said yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at
2004. Hey.
Yeah, that's like what, 10 years ago?
Ridiculous. If we get to 2004, that's going to be I don't know.
Well, even if the houses get built back in 4 or 5 years total, I think this podcast should still keep going because it has provided a vital conduit for everybody to come to be able to find information. Currently, we're on YouTube creating playlists. We already created the playlist for all the builders. I'm trying to eliminate you going to have to search for things. The next playlist I'm going to create is going to be dignitaries like the colonel, the tax assessor, all of those people in one spot. And then the playlist after that will be the wellness series of people who are going to come on so that you can find things a little bit easier. My job over the next 2 months is to make sure that the coverage can reach as many households as possible. So we're, looking at ways to utilize smart TV apps and stuff like that. So every day, this is just not an hour, 2 hour podcast. We meet a half hour before, we discuss how we're going to do it. We meet a half hour afterwards to discuss what went wrong, what didn't go wrong, what looked right. And we treat this as a career, 9 to 5 job. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, even though I was coerced into doing it.
Whatever.
I'm joking. He suggested it. I begged him to be on with me. Jamal is apprehensive with stuff like
Just
this.
got my arm from behind my back. I got it untwisted yesterday.
But he forgot about the ankle shackle.
Yeah, I'll work on those later.
This man right here, this is my brother. I've known him for over 40 years. We've been friends for most of that. This man has been there when sometimes my own family wasn't. So I cherish the friendship, and I would do anything for him and his family. He knows that. And I couldn't stand the fact I was upset last night because the innings kept going on the Dodger game.
And that was the never-ending baseball game.
I think it broke the record.
It should have. I hope so.
Now, the longest one I think was back in 1934. I looked it up. It was like 7 hours and something minutes. I think this one went about that.
It was 6 hours and 39 minutes, man.
Oh, so it didn't make it, but I think it made it for the most innings.
For the World Series, I think it may have.
Oh yeah, man. That's it. I did look up the longest game, not the longest one in the World Series.
Yeah.
Let's not do that again, Dodgers. You got people over here the buses extended their service because it went so long. So I'm glad our community was really paying attention to what was going on.
Right.
Because they had announced that due to the possibility, and this was 9 hours before the ending of it, that they had made this announcement. Yeah, I saw that on Instagram. I was like, okay, Metro.
Yeah.
Go. What Marcus say?
Thinks it was the longest World Series game in time and innings.
Right.
Man, that stuff was so long. I have fallen. I was stressed.
I called you and I said, man, what's going on in this game? He goes, oh man, I went to see. I said, dude, it's the 14th inning. That's when I called him.
Yeah, and I watched it from that point on.
Right.
Like,
well, I'm right next door to Barney's Beanery, and that's where I was. Actually, I was at the hot wing spot.
Oh yeah.
But afterwards, I was like, okay, I don't know. This is getting on my nerves. So I was like, what's going on? But they prevailed, and man, every time it was like nervousness. Each side was getting whiffed.
I was so anxious, but the Jays, they had a couple opportunities. I mean, when they got that dude,
they got on base. Yeah,
they got full
bases loaded
a couple times. I was just like, man, I don't know.
I was like, please don't let it end like this. Please don't let it end like this. And then he got whiffed by the 9th string bullpenner.
What was his name again? I can't even remember his name.
What, sir?
Because he made a name for himself. He absolutely did. He was paid. He was the lowest paid person on that team, and he saved the
Will
day.
Klein.
Will Klein, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
He saved the day.
Will Klein is he was traded to 3 different teams. He wasn't even on the Dodgers roster the whole year. They put him on the roster for the playoffs, not knowing that it would ever come down to him. It says here he pitched 4 scoreless innings on 72 pitches, holding the Blue Jays at bay in the extended game. Yep. The game went for 6 hours and 39 minutes, and Klein's performance was part of a combined effort from 9 relievers who worked 13 and a third innings of 1-run ball and incredible feat given the length of the game. So the dude did what nobody thought could be possible. He's going to be, what they call it, Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
Remember how,
like Brock
Mr.
Purdy?
Irrelevant, won the Super Bowl. You don't count anybody out just because of what rank they fell in on your list of rankings. Because people always surprise you. Always. Yeah. Oh, people used to rule me out all the time, and I'll just come around the corner with me. I'm moving silence, though, until it's time. And then, as Rafiki would say on The Lion King, it is time.
I got to admit, though, as stressful as this series has been so far, this is kind of what you want for the World Series. I was as happy as I was that the Dodgers blew through the Brewers because that was completely unexpected. I really didn't want a sweep or anything. I wanted some competition. I actually personally was thinking it was going to go like 5 or 6 games, not 6 or 7 kids, but 5 or 6.
6-7.
Yeah, 6-7.
That's funny because 6-7. I was born in '67,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I trip off of it when they say it. 6-7.
Right. This will definitely go down, at least so far, as one of the most memorable World Series around. I mean, the split out there, and then to have an 18-inning game. Oh my gosh!
Look,
mm-hmm.
Isn't that what we do when we get on base or have a home run?
They do something like that.
If you're a Dodger fan, you know.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody gonna know who Will Klein is. I'm gonna get his jersey. I
Let
want
me
Will
tell you
Klein.
something.
Do that too.
I am so proud of Clayton Kershaw because, baby, all of us was like, why? He's good for 4 pitches, 6 pitches, 10 pitches. Do not bring Clayton Kershaw in to ruin this. He's retiring. He wants to go out with a bang. But that game was so good. I'm so proud of him.
Marcus said the same thing you did.
Me too.
Oh, did you? Oh, Marcus. Oh, yeah.
Towards the end of his
Baby.
career, he was not as reliable. He was getting smoked sometimes.
Nobody's gonna remember how unreliable he was after that one.
No. Plus, they were saying they originally had planned to use him under different circumstances. He was probably going to relieve when it was like, they got 2 or 3 runs. It's the bottom of the ninth. He's just going to relieve, get on out, and that was going to be the end of the career. That probably is the last time we're going to see Kershaw. That's what they were saying last night. So, hey, he pulled it off. You could see how relieved he was once they got that out. He was like, oh, my God. So, shout out to the Dodgers. Sorry, cousin Ed, who's not a Dodger fan.
Sorry, Drake.
Oh, that was so funny. I was watching earlier in the week before the series started last week. They were showing, Toronto has this, LA has this, Toronto has this. At one point, they're like, Toronto has Drake, LA has Kendrick. No.
Well, you know what's beautiful?
It was just funny. They kind of brought that whole scenario back up now.
You know what's beautiful is in the 2018 World Series, there was an 18-inning game, game 3. And that was against, I think, the Boston Red Sox. But it involved the LA Dodgers. And last night, we did an 18-inning game 3 with the Dodgers again, but this one was longer in timing. And so we have both of those records, which is super dope. And we play again tonight. I hope that they are able to recover and get out there and play well. And then we would play again tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
And we could win it tomorrow night. And what an amazing birthday gift for somebody that would be.
Ooh.
To win the World Series, because tomorrow's a national holiday anyway, because it's this person's birthday. Wow. So that's what I'm hoping.
Hey, do y'all in the audience know who she's talking about?
In the immortal words of Morpheus, this wasn't coincidence. This was providence.
Look, if they could win tonight and win tomorrow, that would be an awesome 60th birthday gift for me. I would be so happy and proud of the Dodgers.
I hope they do.
So we got to do something for the lady in red white today. Her birthday tomorrow.
Now, you guys know, everybody's like, what are you doing for your birthday? I said, did y'all forget I took that trip overseas, that 15 days?
No, she said she was doing a month-long lunch brunches.
No. I'm doing every quarter. I will be doing either a lunch, dinner, or a brunch for the next year. So once a quarter. So I would have done it this coming weekend, but there's so much stuff going on, I can't. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I would have missed it. You know that, because this weekend is retarded.
Yeah, so I might do something next week. But I'm hoping, y'all, for real, they win tonight and win tomorrow. Not just because it's my birthday, but literally, like, I want them to send Toronto back chirping as the little Blue Jays that they are.
Talking about now, I gotta call Lanier and say, "Hey, bro, you need to play the instrumental."
I wonder if he
Let
does,
me tell
you
you,
know.
Lanier was pumping them up at 11:30, quarter to 12 last night. Cause I was like, I was dozing, like, come on, y'all. And then I'd hear some music in the background. I said, Lanier is keeping them folks awake and pumped up.
Got to.
And he earning all his money
He
tonight.
read the room. He read the room.
He did, and did a great job. Because 18 innings, 6 hours, 39 minutes.
Wow.
That's how long they played that game.
That's probably the longest one in World Series history, huh?
Yeah. It was longer than the other one, which was 18 innings by minutes or something. But that one, we were in both 18 and 25. How dope is that?
Did we win that one too?
No, we lost. That was game 3, but we did lose to the Red Sox.
Those Red Sockers. Red Sockers.
Hope they
Anyways,
had their
I had to
Red
pop
Bull
off. I had an
and
important call, so I'm back. But
coffee, whatever else they need to get energized, and sea moss and whatever.
I said they're probably gonna put them in some quick ice baths and then some heat, and then say go get in the bed. And I think Lanier had said that on days that there are games, they got to be at the stadium at 2 p.m. So they're gonna be there at 2 and be getting worked on and muscle treatments or massages so that they can get their lives all the way together and be back tonight in good form. But Yamamoto was aching to go in, so I was like, cool, he didn't, because he could start it off tonight. Because he's a great pitcher.
You mean Toni?
No. Oh, Otani is starting tonight. But Yamamoto. That's right. But, last night Yamamoto was trying to get in the 18th inning. He was out there warming up. But Otani is supposed to start tonight. That's right, as a pitcher.
Now, Klein said this is all mine.
The same setup as last series, man. That's pretty cool.
Klein said he's going to have Klein said he's going to have a for real contract now.
Oh, yeah. You already know.
Everybody knows.
And all it takes is one spectacular event.
Yeah. And he did it. You know what, though? That little man who kept catching our balls in center field, I'm going to need him to sit down somewhere. Because they were hitting him almost to the wall. And every single time he was running, catching all of them, I was like, dang it. So when Freeman hit it over him and he tried to jump for it, I was like, you missed it this time. You missed. I was happy. I was really happy, you guys. You guys want to update on that? Let's see. How many people? 187 are now, hey, relief hero Klein. That red beard. Yamamoto is a dog, isn't he? He's a bad boy. But it is Otani tonight. Thank you, Jamal, for that reminder, because I did forget. Because I was just thinking Yamamoto was really trying to get in. But all of them are. Sasaki, we spent some good money getting them boys from Japan. 3 of them.
It's paying off. Paying off. So, well, I guess this should be the end of the show.
Toodles.
We will get back. Smell you later.
Go Dodgers.
So tomorrow is Dr. Maria, the therapist. I know that I mentioned that earlier, but whoever is still on here for Wellness Wednesday. And who's interviewing her? Jamal
is.
Well, yeah.
I don't.
Oh, he's going to do something.
Yeah, you're not the interviewer.
No, because I'll be asking the goofy questions. I'll interview people that are not
serious
dealing with it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's mine in Jamal's area.
Yeah, exactly. No, and you can claim that and have it. I will gladly sit in the back.
We know our niche. We know our niche. That's all.
Hey, we all know the roles we play, so it's all
that's
good.
Right.
And she actually called me during the show, so I'm gonna call her back and give her the link for tomorrow and give her the skinny and go from there.
Cool beans.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. See y'all mañana.